Here's why America's biggest enemy is America, and why the US hates itself, and how that impacts internationalization and globalization. Hello and welcome back to the Traveling Reports. Today I wanted to go over why exactly Americans hate America, and why it's extremely counterproductive to America getting better, and why inherently I don't believe that America can get better. So, a little bit of a background on me. Of course, I grew up in the United States, and I left at 18, choosing instead to go to Europe and live my life. I have been in Europe since then, Europe and Asia, albeit I'm now all around the world. And one thing that I can tell you about American society is that Americans are the most critical of America, of any other nationality. And this may seem like, well, no, they're not. They're nationalistic. They wave the flag. And while that may be the news you receive, that may be what happens on television, oftentimes if you go to a YouTube comment section, even my own, right, where I take a balanced approach to the United States. I'm not pro-US, I'm not anti-US. I'm systematically dissecting the US. I have no interests in the US, so I can be honest about it, right? When I see comments, it's often, oh, the US is overreaching, oh, the US is doing this, the US is doing that. These often aren't people from outside of the US. They're people from within. They're people that are American citizens. They're living in America. They likely have never traveled that extensively. And this is something that not a lot of Americans will realize themselves, let alone a European. As for many in Europe, they don't understand why an American would hate their own country. I'm presently in Bulgaria, and Bulgaria is the only country I have gone to in the EU, or in Europe in general, that truly understands America. They know that America is conservative. They know that America does not particularly like America. And I'm not sure why exactly Bulgaria understands it, but they do. And oftentimes I get told, oh, I don't really like the US government and I don't really like Americans. And I entertain their opinions, and oftentimes I end up agreeing with them. And the reason why I ended up agreeing with them is not because they actually hate the ideals of Americans. It's not because they hate America or the foundation of America. What they hate is the blind hatred of their own country and their own homelands. And while I think that this has been a relatively new phenomenon of Americans hating their own country, and I think that realistically media has not helped either the right or the left in those terms, of course, this shows that it's not just Americans noticing anymore. And while I will say that, for example, whenever I was in Romania, people were kind of weirded out at some of my ideals, because obviously, even if you are a more centrist or liberal-leaning American, you are conservative in Europe. I believe that realistically what has happened is something that Europeans really can't understand, Asians can't understand, but they know it is detrimental to the US, and it's detrimental to, in many cases, European security, European funding. And, of course, it was within the last few years that, when I look back, Europeans really didn't understand that the US was funding research and development funding. They didn't understand that the US was bankrolling a lot of the programs that existed in Europe. And they're just now starting to realize it because of the inflation and the impact that inflation is having. And of course, that has created massive appreciation, actually, for the US that wasn't there before. Despite Trump being a extremely polarizing figure, in a lot of these societies, US support has not gone down significantly. In fact, in many societies, it has gone up. And so, in essence, you get a positive view of Americans that you didn't prior have. That said, of course, as time goes on, I think that there will be shifting opinions, of course. There always are for every single year and decade and whatever. Things go wrong, things go right. However, I feel like the largest detriment to the United States is the United States citizens. And I say this moving to Europe 3 years ago because I myself believed that the United States was falling apart. I myself believed that the United States was a lost cause. I myself believed that the de-dollarization was imminent. I can tell you, first of all, the de-dollarization is not imminent. The de-dollarization is not happening. People truly rely on U.S. institutions and U.S. security guarantees. People choose to do business with the United States, and they enjoy American products and American culture. Something that realistically not a lot of people will tell you in the internationalization space is the world doesn't hate America. America hates America. And that's often why you'll see American consultants being the most outspoken critics of the United States. I won't name names, but of course you know exactly who I'm talking to and talking about in this niche, and oftentimes they parrot narratives of the exact same things that China, that Russia, that these sorts of places are saying. And I'm not necessarily saying they're paid shills, I'm just saying they really don't understand the world. And they don't understand the societies they end up moving to. And I feel that's important. Of course, that said, if you're looking for consulting that actually works, feel free to reach out to me one-on-one, absolutely free for 15 minutes, down on the Calendly link down below. If you liked this video, feel free to like it. If you really liked this video, feel free to share. Oh, and of course, if you are looking to join me on this journey of internationalization and globalization, feel free to subscribe. This has been the Traveling Report, signing off.